Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Darth Vader Daniel, and this is not a typical episode because your Emperor, Papa Kelli, is out from a wisdom tooth surgery. So we finally have the long-awaited debut of Nick James, who was initially going to fill in for Kelli's pregnancy with little Leo, but now we got him on for sure this time. He is here, and he is ready to dive into some news, just like usual, for the Brokehead Corps. Say hi to everyone, Nick.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I can't even tell you how excited I am.
Man, there were some hiccups at the very beginning. We thought we weren't going to get you on again, but here you are, and we are recording. We are on.
You don't even know, you called and you're like, hello. And I said, hey, Daniel, I can't believe it's so great to be on with you. And you went, hello. And I went, oh no, there's no way. And then again, you went, hello. And I went, no, please don't be doing this. And I opened the settings and I tried to get everything ready. And then you were like, oh, I can hear you breathing. Good. You're there. And I was like, yes. All right. It's not. Oh, I can't even tell you how it would have gone down if you're like, hey, I got somebody else on the line. Sorry about that. Like,
hey, it's not over yet. Your mic could still catch on fire or something just bizarre. So
Sir, I'm sitting in a room without wood. I can't even knock on anything right now. Please don't say such things.
Give the Brokehead Corps a little bit of an intro as far as where your love of comics or superhero fandom began with you.
It's actually pretty funny. I'm in a class right now called intercultural communication. So I kind of had to give a little intro there about culture and what it means to me. And I said geek culture means a lot. And I went so far as to say I could speak many different dialects of nerd. And, those are Power Rangers for sure. I like those guys. I could do DC, Marvel, a lot of comics. Harry Potter I can go pretty deep on. Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. Where I lack a little bit is anime and gaming. I can stand to brush up a little bit on those. But other than that, I've been a diehard geek for as long as I can remember. So when I got to the school I went to, I was able to start my own little news show called Nick's Nerd News, where I got 4 minutes to give people their week in geek and do stuff like that. And I had previous geek broadcasting doing Gluttons for Geekdom, a podcast I used to do when I lived in New Jersey with some buddies. But since I moved to PA, it kind of dissolved after that. But talking about this stuff and listening to this stuff on podcasts is something I just adore doing. So it's great. I can't believe I'm sitting here doing it with you now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick James, for coming on. A longtime Brokehead as well. We've interacted on Twitter back and forth several times, on Facebook, on Instagram, I think even, and I follow you on LinkedIn. So this is a kind of an original core member in a way, because as the show continues to grow every year, it's the legacy Brokeheads that it's like, yeah, they're always there. You don't forget them. You're like, yeah, of course, it's a long time Brokeheads. So now it's kind of neat to have, and I've had several legacy members on, but it's good to finally have a big portion of that with you on today.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and it's that kind of online community that you created with me that automatically, like, I remember the day that I was listening to the podcast and you said my name. And I was driving, and I swear I was in the car with my father, and I almost like kind of did a swerve. I was like, they said my name. Like, it's just kind of a crazy thing, because we had commented on the ashes being spread inside the haunted mansion, like in that graveyard.
Yes.
And you would hit me back with another Disney fact, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And you had mentioned it on the show, and I was like, oh my God, they said my freaking name, man.
It's
and
fantastic.
Then, yeah, like Twitter and stuff like that. I think that's where I initially found you. And that was probably a Kevin Smith thing somewhere back in the day. Because when I started Twitter, I really only did it to be like, hey, at that Kevin Smith, I like you. Thank you. Bye. And like, I've only come to kind of grow into using Twitter as a better communication tool.
Well, there we go. Let's dive right in as if it were the beginning of a regular episode. In episode number 331 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the Francesco Mattina controversy and some of the swiping that this swiper's been doing.
We also have Paramount's TMNT film franchise reboot.
At the very end, we're going to attempt to break down the Zack Snyder Tree of Life code that has had a lot of the DC belugas up in a tizzy and in kind of conspiracy mode with, let's put on our tinfoil hats on that one.
All that and more.
let's dive in on the video game news with Square Enix, who has launched a type of social media campaign for Kingdom of Hearts 3 along with Disney titled Share Your Heart Out.
I think this is fun. When I introduced myself, I said gaming wasn't my biggest forte, but Kingdom of Hearts is where I kind of left off. I played that second one on the PS2, so I can kind of relate to this a little bit. And I love those games, and I think that this is awesome. The contest was to win 1 in 5 trips to Disney parks as themed by different Disney films. Like, that's awesome. And for you guys, too, like, you guys go all the time. So yeah. I feel like every time you guys are at Epcot, like, drinking beers and going through and doing things, I'm like, that must be so great.
It is pretty amazing. Like, it is... I especially like it because when I do get to go with other friends as well, it's kind of a whole different experience than when I go with Kelli, which is more romantic, because then it's all about, oh, here's where, I propose, and then here's where we enjoy our favorite drinks. But it's my favorite park. One, of course, alcohol, but it's also the most gorgeous park of all of them, and I feel like it is truly for adults, especially now that Disney Springs completely has changed.
Yeah, I haven't been down in so long. Actually, the last time I was down there, I worked there. I did an internship, the college internship they offer there. So I was at, it just went off the top of my head. Port Orleans, excuse me.
I was
at Port Orleans Resort. Oh, it was awesome. So between that and then I got to go to the one that they used to call Dixie Landing, but it's not anymore. Right?
I don't know what they've changed. I'm not too familiar with those.
There was 2, though. 2 different in-store or in-resort merchandising that I worked at. And then, I stayed at a place that they offered me. And then, it was kind of what I imagine you guys do. It was like, you want to go to Epcot really quick? Yeah, sure. And we drive down and just kind of go and hang out for a night, and it would be great. And then go to work the next day and stuff like that. So I haven't been down so that long. So I haven't kept up on what's going down there. But I would totally go down there if it was going to be like a themed park like this. If I was down there, there's no way you could keep me out.
And the way that people could enter and try to win one of these 5 trips is actually a little bit more different than what you get from what some of these companies are trying to do. And they were trying to spread positivity with sharing your love, not just of Kingdom of Hearts, but just in general, by posting each day with the hashtag 3 heart emojis and then hashtag sweepstakes. So it's more of, obviously, the internet is full of negativity and a lot of whining and bitching, but in this case, they were saying, no, let's just talk about good things, and that's how we'll enter the contest. And knowing that it is Kingdom of Hearts, their rabid fans flooded the internet with these positive things.
And that's what you really kind of need to see every now and then. It's nice to go on the internet and see positive things. So, we kind of, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but we kind of all win a little bit,
That's right.
But I would want to win in real life. I would love to go down there.
Are you going to be playing Kingdom of Hearts 3 when that releases in about 1,000 years? Do you plan on freezing yourself to play this title?
I haven't thought about any cryogenics, but maybe. I don't know. Because like I said, I fell out of gaming a little bit. And now that I'm back in school, I haven't had a system in a little bit. I just feel like getting back in right now. Because the problem with me is I really am just horrible at playing them. So I want to know the story. Like, I love the story of Kingdom of Hearts. So I would love to know what happens, but it would just take me so long to play it and figure it out. And now that YouTube will just like put up the cutscenes in 24 hours after the release, I'll end up just watching that and feeling like, all right, now I know at least what happened.
Yeah, I felt the same way with a lot of titles that people play. Like, I watch some Let's Plays like Lazy Gaming Guys, and seeing them complete and other gamers, other streamers go through a full title, it does feel like you've played the game yourself. And with people like us who don't have the time or the money to be playing all of these games, it's kind of a nice thing. I know when streamers first came about, it was a lot of, why would you want to watch someone play instead of playing it yourself? But now adulting, you appreciate it that much more because you get to see way more games than you used to.
Yeah, there's games that there's no way that I would have ever picked up for myself thinking I could accomplish beating it that I've watched. And I'm like, oh, at least I get the hype now. Now I know why everybody likes it. Like, that was a great story. So I can kind of live vicariously through the internet.
If you are one of the 5 Brokettes that ended up winning the trip, let us know. Maybe you got out there. Maybe you're one of those, and send us pictures. But good luck if you entered. By the time this episode releases, the contest will have pretty much wrapped up. So hopefully you got to participate in that in some form, listeners.
Next up here, we have that the Revenge of the Fans are claiming exclusive news that Warner Brothers Animation will be developing a Mortal Kombat movie. How do you feel about this right off the cuff?
Man, if anyone can do this right, it's going to be WB Animation. And do you want to see this full on? It's Mortal Kombat. Does it have to be an R-rated release, or do you anticipate a PG-13?
Oh, it's got to be R. You know, again, speaking as the novice video gamer, I know to expect somebody grabbing a head and ripping it out with the spine still coming out and oozing. Like, I know nothing about the series in terms of characters or anything, but I know that if I don't see that, I've been ripped off of a Mortal Kombat movie. And the only way to do that is with an R. So yeah, they're going to have to go hard R for it. And they've done that before. I don't see why they can't.
Well, I don't know if you remember the Mortal Kombat cartoon that was in the 90s. And I remember watching that as a kid. My favorite character still is Sub-Zero. And it's like, oh my God, there's all these characters that I played with and they're running around. No blood, no violence. It was essentially a G.I. Joe cartoon. As a kid, I didn't mind it, but now we live in such a different world where these fans are adults, they've grown up. Now we want to see those special effects and blood and gore that we see in full 4K, but do it as an animation.
To take it out would almost to leave out a character of Mortal Kombat itself. Mm-hmm. You know, like I'm saying, it is a part of what kind of got the hype around it back in the day. You know, people were saying, oh my God, have you seen this? And there's no such thing as bad publicity. And the game grew and got giant, and the franchise grew and got giant, and it's still, not to, again, be too cheeky, it's still kicking ass today. So why wouldn't they give us exactly what we wanted in terms of fans?
I know we haven't played, from the sounds of it, the latest ones in the series, but is there a particular one, maybe from back in the day, that you would want to see adapted as far as the story into this animated feature?
No, again, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to call my novice card here. My favorite character, too, was Sub-Zero, and that was as far as I can go in naming anything specific about it. I know that they previously did movies, but I don't know those. Would those be worth the reboot update of that story, do you think?
I don't think so. I really like the first one, honestly. I went back and I saw it on Netflix half a year back when it hit that again. But the Mortal Kombat series is rich with so much lore just per character. Based on all of the years that they've done these, I think Mortal Kombat 11 is about to release this year, that you can really focus on one character. Most likely Liu Kang is who they're going to go with, and then kind of evolve the stories from there as the inevitable animated sequels release.
Which sounds like a plan. I mean, it really, if anybody could do it, it could be Warner Brothers Animation. I'm kind of repeating what you said, but we've seen them adapt so much material already, and I trust them. We were talking about it with our Emperor Kelli the other time about being somewhat nervous for Batman Hush. You weren't sure if they were going to break that into this new Justice League 52 that they're doing. It
turns out they are. I found out this week, and I know.
Oh, sir, because I was sitting there listening going oh, man, I can't wait to bring this up because I'm going to have to agree with Emperor Kelli. No, everything will be all right. It's going to be okay. And they are going to incorporate that in rather than doing a standalone, because you brought up Gotham by Gaslight. And I was like, yeah. Oh, man, mind blown. You heard it here first, baby, because I did. Oh, my God. How is that going to work? Now I'm nervous.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh, goodness.
I don't know. The problem I had, and this is the only reason I don't like that it's now part of this new 52 animated continuity. One, Death of Superman, like I said last week, but the Court of Owls story was bastardized with that Batman versus Robin, one of those Batman versus Robin animated features that they kind of lazily worked them in there, and it didn't really work. Whenever I hear customers and even my friends say, well, DC needs work on the live action movies, but they've got animated down. I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite right now. The animated movies I haven't really enjoyed like I used to when they were strictly adapting the comics. Like All-Star Superman, it's perfection. It's a perfect movie. And now they're trying to connect all of them together. Like, we're going to connect Court of Owls with Death of Superman with Hush. It's messy.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it's sometimes a little bit less than what I'd hope for. But like what we were talking about with the Death of Superman, or what you guys were talking about, we weren't, sorry, how it kind of got a little wish-washy with that story. And I think that's just because they already gave us Superman the first one, Doomsday, you know? So we kind of saw that a little. So that one I understood a little bit more than what you're referring to with the wish-washiness of Batman v. Robin and what that Court of Owls was. Man, you have me double guessing some things I thought I knew for sure. This is awesome.
At the very least, Mortal Kombat is a fresh start. They're going right in. They didn't, as far as I know, adapt or do that cartoon from the 90s. So let's see where they go from there. I am definitely all in on this Mortal Kombat animated.
Oh, yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Even as not somebody who's kept up with the franchise, like, I'd like to see it in this form and see how they do.
Here's one story that mainly people do seem to be pretty positive about as well. And being that it's the internet, pretty shocking. But Paramount is developing a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film franchise, live action, separate from the Michael Bay films.
While no director is in place, the producers confirmed that the film could start production by the end of the year. That's surprising.
Yeah, well, how well did TMNT Out of the Shadows do? Do you happen to remember?
I remember a lot of people feeling similar to me, actually. If it was like, well, that was a nice try, like, cool. Not being super upset about it, but also not completely wanting to hate it. It was there. So no, it wasn't championed or marveled or anything, because I don't even think its predecessor was that well received, the original reboot version.
No, not at all. That's the one where they were kind of Hulk-like, pretty big, and the designs were heavily criticized when they first showed them up, where there was that famous Photoshop of them like, here, just fix the nose, make it like this. And then, well, obviously by then, the movie's pretty much finished. It's going to cost them millions to go back and fix every one of those shots like that. But when it did release, they did take fan feedback and change the Shredder, where originally it was the same bank teller, I guess, gang member from The Dark Knight that ends up comes across the Joker, and he was originally going to be Shredder in that first film, and they did a bit of reshoots. They kept the character in the dark. That way it was like a 2-day filming bit, and they're like, that's the Shredder actually, so you never actually see anyone get into the suit. He just shows up and you buy it. So that's another like course correction thing that they ended up doing with the original films to try to please fans.
That's interesting. My biggest kind of takeaway from that first one, and maybe if not, maybe if I could be so bold, sir, to put a call out to the Broke at Core, maybe they have an answer. Do you know that Johnny Knoxville is the voice of Michelangelo, but he wasn't there in the suit or anything?
I didn't know that, no.
And I've tried, because growing up, I loved Jackass more than anything. And I've continued to kind of like where they've gone with like Bad Grandpa and stuff like that. I haven't seen the Action Park one, but I was like, when I was watching that movie, I was like, that's fucking Johnny Knoxville. I've heard hello, my name is Johnny Knoxville more times than anything. And if you look it up, it is his voice, but I can't figure out why the other guy didn't do it. Like out of the 4 turtles, he's the only one who didn't do the voice. Yeah,
that's really bizarre. I don't know how. I'm not sure. Maybe he was busy. It's kind of, I
guess, but like if that's what I remember most about the movie, it kind of says it all,
Right, that's true. I
and
know
the second one. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was actually going to dive right into the second one too.
Oh yeah, just the only thing I remember about the second one is that they went for Bebop and Rocksteady, and I was like, all right, respect. You went for it. That's cool, but it was okay. And now where would you go? I felt like they left themselves nowhere to go after they did that to kind of a fizzle. What could you really like, Krang?
Yeah, I think, the Krang were at the very end of the movie, and you could visit their homeworld, right? That's one direction which I thought they were going to go in, but maybe it just didn't make enough money. With this particular reboot that Paramount is doing, do you think they're going to go back to something we're more familiar with as people who grew up with the original Turtles, the films, and the comics? Do you think they're going to go back to the shorter turtle, shorter than humans, more comic accurate? Or will they go with something even more different from the Michael Bay films, like we're seeing now in Nickelodeon's TMNT, where they're each different turtle species?
Yeah, I remember. I actually heard about that on here, and I had to look it up because I was like, what do you mean? And the Stowe Brothers and stuff like that. I didn't think that was that horrible decision. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, I honestly have no idea, because I don't think we'll ever get a guy in a suit ever again.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. Yeah.
Because, we have too many still shots of some of those where you could see the guy in the suit. So just for that reason alone, they'll always do CGI. So from that, we can go pretty much everywhere. We saw little teenage or little children turtles in this last one, is something that was a little bit different than the first, than the puppeteers and the Henson, what they did. So they can go anywhere. I don't know what they're going to do, but I would like to see something a little bit smaller, a little bit more what we're used to when we look at the original, like the source material, the Laird and Eastman stuff. And I would like to even get that kind of noirish, kind of black and white maybe feel to it. Not maybe black and white in terms, but a darker tone would be cool.
How ballsy would that be if they went like Sin City-ish on this thing?
Live action like that, pretty ballsy. Like if it was animation and they tried to do with like maybe Sony just did with Into the Spider-Verse and like chose a style and chose to do it in a way that was unique and did it like that, I don't think that they'll ever put the balls out to make a live action Sin City / TMNT type thing. Though I would pay my money to see it.
Absolutely. 100%. The only way I would ever see, okay, they're actually going to do suits on this one, is if they announce tomorrow that Guillermo del Toro is directing. Because then I know he's going to blow the budget on costumes.
Yeah.
That guy does not sign on to anything without, you're going to blow up my budget and I'm going to have practical effects as often as possible.
Do you think they get 4 different actors for the Turtles, or do you think they just dress up Doug Jones 4 different times and make him interact with himself? Because I put the gauntlet down and he could do it.
Yes,
Doug
he
Jones
can.
Is crazy talented.
Absolutely, he can. He can play Shredder. They can CGI the entire movie and have him live action April O'Neil, Shredder, the 4 Turtles, and I would be like, no, yeah, that's what, it was different actors? Or no, it was one actor? Wow, that's amazing. Like, I would not notice.
Still give him all the different credits as the credit screen is going down, not just one name. Give it everybody and just Doug Jones, Doug Jones, Doug Jones, Doug Jones. Yeah, I would totally pay to see that as well.
That guy is amazing. I love Dougie.
He really is. Do you want to hear a weird side fact?
Please.
On YouTube, I was watching something. I got into this series that's pretty good, and they go through just odd different things that happen. And they had a mini-sode about McDonald's, and back in the 90s, they tried to make it cool to go to McDonald's, and it was like called Big Mac Tonight or something. And they had a character with a giant moon face, and he played the piano. I was like, yeah, come on down, and it'll be a fun time at McDonald's. And that was Doug Jones' first role.
Nice.
Was as the moon guy.
Did he have sunglasses? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think he did.
That's amazing. Here's another weird thing. Last week I was watching Kenan and Kel, and Dougie Jones plays one of the waiters. I'm like, it's fucking Doug. What's he doing? And of course he's super animated, jumping around, and I'm like, this is amazing. He should have gotten way more live action roles, but I'm sure the live act or the motion capture stuff really pays off.
Dude, I met Kel Mitchell actually not too long ago.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
How cool. And he was awesome. He was a really cool guy. What are you watching that show on?
On VRV.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry.
I had not heard about it until a few months ago, but I was trying to catch up on My Heroic Academics, and they had just pulled it off of Hulu. They weren't really updating it. And my coworker told me that VRV is this streaming service that essentially puts together several streaming services into one. So you know how Cartoon Network has their own, Hanna-Barbera has their own, Nickelodeon has their own streaming service. They have contracts with these different networks to put it all on theirs. So instead of paying $6.99 for Nick and $7.99 for Funimation, you pay $9.99 and you get all of them. So that's what VRV is.
I enjoy that. I actually wrote that down and I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, for $10 you can catch all of Kenan and Kel. You can catch Rocko's Modern Life. There's all the Nicktoons are on there. Doug. It's pretty amazing. I ended up cutting it recently because they're not going to put My Hero on there, but I'm almost caught up on pretty much all the Nickelodeon shows. Are You Afraid of the Dark is on there.
Nice. Yeah, those, again, a staple of what I grew up on. So I really might have to look into that. And like you said, even if I do it just for a little bit and get all those runs out of my system and then end up leaving for a little bit, like it would be great to see season 1, episode 1 of some of those shows that are just kind of weird, vague memories.
Going on to some more controversial news on the comic book side of things, Italian comic cover artist Francesco Mattina, red hot, right? In the last year, his covers have just flown off the shelves, but he's been called out by Walter McNeil for lifting art for use on his different covers.
It's something you don't ever want to hear.
No.
And it's something that when you do and then you associate a name to it, you're like, really? Like, I don't know. Because if it's true, I feel bad a little bit that it's going to have to happen to him. But at the same time, that's what you get. Don't steal other people's stuff. And when you look at the comparisons, you're like, come on, there's a difference between reference and this is just a different character. The one that I looked at that was just too much was the Punisher Batman one, was right next to each other.
Yeah, and Walter McNeil, I believe, has been the one putting them up on Instagram and doing even short videos of here's a GIF of the different transitions from one cover to the other, and it's straight up tracing and then kind of redressing the skeleton of the original picture.
Yeah, like I said, there's a difference between referencing and you just stated it perfectly. Excuse me. He draws the skeleton and then says, all right, you're not the Punisher anymore. Now you're Batman. And don't do that. You don't do that.
And some big names that he's lifted off of is Daniel Bell, Ian McDonald, and Alex Ross, of all people. Most of the time when they have some kind of cover reference to an existing piece, they'll have a little note at the bottom crediting the original cover after Todd McFarlane, after Alex Ross, and all is well, right? But a lot of people have gotten into trouble for doing this exact thing, and I don't know how he felt he would get away with it. With the internet being what it is, you can take one of his covers, drag it over to Google image search, and Google will figure out other pictures that look similar to this.
Yeah, it's just not the day and age to be trying to get away with stuff like that. I don't know. Unfortunately, I feel almost kind of bad. Like I said, I feel kind of bad that it's going to happen, but you deserve it at the same time. I'm sorry to be so saying it over and over, but, he had worked at Marvel for how long? And why did they ever stop working with him? Why did he go over to DC? Did they know this maybe? Mm-hmm. Did somebody figure this out and just quietly shushed him? And he went, all right, well, let's see how long until somebody else notices.
That's what's insane about it. Like, obviously,
if that's true, then yeah, you deserve it, man. If somebody called you out and let you graciously bow out of a role, you should have stayed hidden under a rock.
And what blows me away is, like, we at the comic shop, the Mattina covers are always some of the most popular ones. They're usually always the variants. DC has made a good amount of money where I'll order, okay, here's 25 subs that are down for, let's see, what's he done recently? Batman. And let's do how many Mattina covers? I'm going to order 35. And I'll end up going through all 35. Which is more than even the subscription numbers sometimes on some of these covers. So it's great when it's great, when it's all honest and it's an actual artist doing his work. And now how long until DC cuts completely on these covers and they find hopefully the next Mattina that's going to sell these for them?
It's something to consider, but to be honest too, if you're on Instagram and like I know you are, I'm not saying you specifically, there's a lot of guys out there, I did a little stint. I went to the Kubert School in Dover, New Jersey for I could only cut it for a year. It's a 3-year program and it's intense as hell. And I couldn't keep up, but I know dudes and I watch dudes every day who could kill it and be the next guy without having to use skills like that. So hopefully out of this kind of burning career, if it's confirmed, and especially if he's really told to now go away, hopefully somebody else could take that shot and really do the work.
Let's dig into Nick James a little bit, because I didn't know that about you. You went to the Kubert School in New Jersey. The artist of Anne Bonny also, I don't know if it's the same or if there's multiple Kubert schools there, but he went to that particular school, a Kubert school in Jersey, and he described
the one, yeah.
Oh, perfect. So you guys went to the same one. He described it as boot camp, essentially, where they weed out a lot of people even in the first couple of weeks because it is very intense. What kind of stuff did you have to go through on your year with them?
First shout out, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Fernando Ruiz is a teacher there. He's worked for Archie. He's a killer artist, and he is one tough guy. And he says it, there's blood on the snow already. That's the type of you call it boot camp, and everybody laughs. And, let's not get all serious. I don't really mean that it's tougher than military boot camp. But if you're an artist, it is. It's just like that, man. It's 5 days, 2 classes a day for about 4 hours. Well, no, they give you lunch. So about 3.5 hour classes, where you go through how to do narrative, You go through how to do figures. You had a lot. I sucked at figure drawing, coloring. I learned how to use Photoshop and stuff like that. Character, humor, different things like that. So it was 10 different classes once a week for 2 semesters a year for 3-year program if you can make it. It's rough.
And it ends up being kind of where they set up deadlines for you, right? It's almost like you're working for a publisher.
Oh, yes. It's not even sort of, it is, because they don't tolerate any less than that. These people aren't people who are like, oh, I've been there, I've done that. It's no, I'm there, I'm doing it, but I'm also here doing this. You have names that are still big in the business and still going around and making money off their art. And if you miss one, it's no joke.
That's cool though, Nick. I did not know that you did a lot of drawing as well on the side. So really cool to see that you went through something similar.
You'd be fired with the reputation. Yeah. That it weeded out. And unfortunately it weeded me out and kind of just beat me down out of it in a little sense. There's a whole nother story that I'd prefer.
Well, like always,
not to.
It's one of those things where I used to draw in high school and kind of dabbled in it here and there since, but it's always something that I feel like it's almost like riding a bike. Like, yeah, you have to kind of work at it forever. It's always continuing to improve, but it's something you never really lose. So later on in our lives, we can hopefully revisit that part of expression that we can still use.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I do. I still have the table. I still have my nice art table, and I do not plan to have that be one of those things that I'm like, all right, I'll get rid of it someday. Like, no, I need to keep it, and I need to look at it every day, whether it goes used or not, just to be like, you could.
That's good, man. Yeah.
Can I please announce this next one? Because I actually really wanted to talk about it, if not just for a minute.
I'll go for it. Go for it in an hour if you want.
All right. Yeah, I really didn't want to impose when you were like, is there anything you want to talk about? I'm like, I don't want to be the guy to tell him how to do his job. Like I said, I'm just so happy to be here. But Jason Reitman, who's the son of Ivan Reitman, you might know him from Up in the Air, Thank You for Smoking, has signed on to direct Ghostbusters in 2020, which will be a direct sequel to Ghostbusters 2. And they gave us this amazing little trailer. I mean, teaser of a trailer. It's a teaser of a teaser, because there's other teasers that give you a lot more than what they gave us. And it's like the shady barn, and you hear like the creepy music. And if you're like me, and you love Ghostbusters, the first little tone, other people might be like, this looks interesting. But I knew like the second that first tone, and then you see the Ecto 1, which is the car and all the noises in this barn. It's going to be a good time. I thank you for letting me gag on there for about the Ghostbusters, but I am so excited.
No, let's really dive into this, because you're going to be more familiar with Ghostbusters than I am. I last saw Ghostbusters 2 as a kid. And I remember the Pillsbury, it's the Pillsbury fucking Doughboy running around the city. And we've since played
That's actually the second one, or the first one has
the first one.
Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Yeah, the second one has Vigo the Conqueror. It's the man in the painting.
Oh, and then the Statue of Liberty. That's right.
Yes, yeah, and they all sing, and it's a good time. And Rick Moranis is there, and he thinks he makes all the gelatin fly away, but not really. Yeah, dude, these were like perfect for me. Like it was right when VHS was really hot, and my parents were like, oh, okay, you could totally watch this, because you guys were just talking about there was no PG-13. So this was rated PG and had stuff that was scary enough for a little kid to be like, oh, like, that first library scare that you get with the guys down there. Like it's a pretty good little puppet that they got there. And, I watch it now and I'm like, all right, but back then it scared me. And of course you got Bill Murray. Bill Murray's a walking, talking cartoon, and then you make him fight ghosts. And I have a lot of warm memories, and you guys don't even know how much you honored me when you talked about me on Halloween. Because
the Ghostbusters is a group that you went as.
I convinced everybody and again, I'm not somebody who's really big into fate, but if you will, we were at our local Hot Topic, and the suits that we're wearing are actually last year's Ghostbuster suits. But since it's a Ghostbuster suit, it doesn't change. It looks just like these ones. But because of that, they were 75% off, and we snagged them for $6 a piece.
Nice.
And I was like, come on, there's 4 of us. Like, let's do this. And we could dress the little kid up as the Stay Puft Marshmallow. Like, it's going to be the best. And I don't mean to pat my back too hard, but if you look at those photos, like, I really enjoy them. Like, that's going to be something I will have until I'm 100 years old. I'm going to blow it up really big, if not get a painting of it. Like, geek level achievement for me was unlocked. I love it. So the fact that, yeah, we're going to get another one, it's going to be his son kind of leading the way. It's going to be cool. And this is not me by any stance also shitting on the other one. I didn't mind the girl Ghostbusters, if you will. Like, I thought that was a fun time. Like, I will take Ghostbusters in any form.
Yeah, I do want to get the negative bit out of the way before we celebrate what is Ghostbusters 2020. And it's the question that really, I don't know, I guess it needs to be asked is, if we hadn't had that particular Ghostbusters reboot from 2 or 3 years ago, that wasn't as well received. And I know the box office isn't what they wanted it to be. And then, of course, the death of one of the members who wanted a Ghostbusters 3 for many years. Do you think these events are what led to the original crew going, all right, we need to do this. We need to do I'm calling it Ghostbusters 3, but this is Ghostbusters 3.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because the other one will just be its own one-off of what it is. This is definitely the third one. And though maybe it didn't make as much money as they wanted, it must have done something. You know, somebody had enough faith. Maybe the toys were really good, or the accessories, you know, like the proton packs or something like that. Maybe even just the rentals of the first one were brought back more by this. And they went, wow, you know, if that did what it did, imagine really what a third one would do.
Sorry, you don't think this is going to connect at all to the last one we got?
No, because Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and oh geez, I feel so horrible when I forget his name. Ernie Hudson, because I always want to call him by his character name. I always want to call him Winston, but that's not his name, and I feel bad that I can't remember his off top. They were all in it as different people, so
that's true.
It's just that would be awkward, kind of, then to be like, wait, didn't I just see you as a doctor who got scared by a ghost and fell out a window? Wait, weren't you a cab driver? Wait, don't you own a bunch of hearses? That's the word. I was going to call them morgue vehicles, and I'm like, no, that's not the word. I don't think there'll be anything. Wasn't
it Bill Murray, the one that mainly was not on board with Ghostbusters 3 when they were trying to get that going?
Oh, yeah. He's a weird guy, and he's kind of a bit of a wild card when it comes to Hollywood, because I've read a lot of things, or there's even a cool thing on Netflix right now, the Bill Murray stories, that explains he doesn't sign contracts. He doesn't have a manager. He doesn't accept to do something unless, like, you find him and talk to him. Mm-hmm. So in today's age, to be like, Bill, are you going to do a number 3? And he's like, yeah, maybe. Now you drop money, you make a set, and he's like, yeah, no, I don't feel like, no, this isn't what I wanted. So I think maybe that's what led them to cold feet before, but I guess they have something more than that. Maybe he gave him more than that. Maybe he did the signs. I don't know. But yeah, he seems to be on board now.
From the sound of 2020, it looks like there's going to be a younger group, probably even younger than the last movie we got. They said teenagers, didn't they, for this new crew of Ghostbusters?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe they'll only get kind of mentoring figures. I hope it's not like a father thing, so we, like, you know, they keep all their last names still, and
I think they will go that route.
Do you really? Yeah, I think that's way too on the nose for me, but again, I'll watch it. But man, they better act their little fucking asses off, because if I don't buy it for a second, I'm going to be pissed. Like, come on. You know, they could have been any 4 nerds who wanted to be more. You know, it could be the Stranger Kids things, but on this new universe, you know, just 4 geeky kids who like geek shit and like, hey, you guys want to hunt ghosts? We're too fucking old now. Like, I'd prefer that over like, all right, son, it's time to take you to the firehouse and I'm going to suit you up for like, like I'm saying, they'd have to really write something spectacular to make me feel like that's not just a cash grab.
I want you to direct this mainly for the fact that you would then become like the Kubrick of Ghostbusters. No, kid, take 50. We're going to do take 50, and you're going to do that line again until I fucking believe it. We're going to be here all night.
Make me see Bill Murray. Do it. And like, nobody will, because I have studied Bill Murray to an extreme amount. Like, I really do watch everything he puts out. And like, yeah, I could not buy that. I don't want to see a little Venkman, a little Stantz, a little all that. Like, I like the idea, like, let's have these boys, let's have them actually pass a gauntlet now, and then go ahead, just make as many as you want, as long as you keep that theme, that heart, that, again, I think the 2016 version still had. So even if they had passed those girls the gauntlet, like, keep it in the universe, but we'll see.
The one bit, just to kind of wrap all of this up, is that the one thing that caught me was the fact that, yeah, Ghostbusters are great and everything, but I'm not as into it as you are. But Jason Reitman, Up in the Air is one of my favorite movies of all time. And then, of course, Thank You for Smoking was incredible. This might be, and I know this is sacrilegious to a lot of fans, but thematically, with cinematography, with the directing, it might, through a technical side, be the best Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, everything he makes is visually stunning without having to be showy, without having to be gaudy. Like you said, like, Thank You for Smoking. Just some of the choices that he made to show you things and convey the message that needed to be conveyed at that moment cinematically. Like, it was just like, huh, that was a choice. Like, weird. I don't know if I would have made that, but that's half the fun of going to see a movie sometimes. Like, I wouldn't have done that. And liking it. And he makes a lot of those choices for me. So definitely give it to him. Let's see. I want it.
Have you heard his interview on Smodcast?
Yes. And apparently I just saw something about that as well. He knew.
He knew at that time that he was going to do Ghostbusters?
Yeah, he knew at that time that he was going to do Ghostbusters, and Kev, like, was sworn to secrecy. And, you know, you and I being Kev fans, it's like, it must have killed him.
Oh, yeah.
To know this whole time. Yeah, I think he even said something. He even remarked to the fact that maybe it was the day after they actually recorded that Smodcast, he was on his way to film the footage that we just saw, something like that. So I was like, oh my God, you knew this whole time, and good for you for keeping it quiet, and good for him too. Like, I don't know how famous people do that when they get contracted to work on stuff and they're like, all right, you know, sign this NDA. I couldn't do it. There's no way.
I know a lot of actors have commented on Ben Affleck, especially when he filmed Batman v Superman, is that they filmed this whole thing, right? The whole project is finished, and then they don't see anything for up to a year. And they're just being asked questions by fans and reporters and all of that. And they're just like, they forget sometimes that, oh yeah, that's right. The trailer's going to release on this day. And then they start getting blown up with phone calls and tweets and messages. They're like, oh, that's right. We did do that movie that I'm now focused on this other thing, but they don't see the rewards to what they've worked so hard on until sometimes over a year later.
Now you're saying, you know, you're reading this from Ben Affleck, but it sounds more like a personal story. Is this what you went through for Aquaman?
Look, I'm very happy to let my stunt double Momoa really reap the benefits of all that fandom. I'm too busy with the podcast. I'm recording now instead of doing like the Japanese Aquaman tour that's about to come up in a couple of weeks. So that's not for me. I'm trying to build, Kelli and I are just trying to build this little project and see if we can make this work. Over 5 years later? I think we should know by now.
It's very nice that you allow Jason Momoa out there to do that for you. It's very humbling. I like that. As
I said on Twitter, all the proceeds, and it's like, great, $1 billion. Let them have it. The crew deserves it. We're going to focus on this for now. So,
do you want to head into the Brokehead block? Is that what's next, sir?
Yeah. Let's go into Brokehead block, which you are a part of today, this week. And it is where we go into where Nick James and I have been this week. What's been going on in our lives outside of what we covered on the podcast here. And real quick, I do want to announce that starting with actually last week's episode, but moving forward, you will find a link to the Hero Initiative Foundation, a donation link in case you want to help out comic creators, comic artists, inkers, all of that, comic industry members that have medical bills that are no longer getting work. This foundation is built for that. Whenever the big two and other publishers don't properly compensate these creators to a lot of the characters that we know and love, that we see on television, on the big screen, that we discuss every week, that we see on Twitter and love and have tattoos of, whatever, they're not properly taken care of. This foundation came about because of that. And I feel like a little bit ashamed that it's taken us so long, and it just kind of, you know, it's a realization of why don't we have a link everywhere on the Hero Initiative? And now it is up on today's description. It is up on our Facebook page. If you go to the interactive player, there's a special button that's highlighted that says donate to the Hero Initiative. So whenever if you ever have an extra dollar or two and you want to help out these comic creators that helped build this world that Disney and Warner Brothers and some of the other film companies now really heavily, benefit from, you can head on over to the Hero Initiative and simply click on the link in today's episode, and you too can help out these creators.
Yeah, that's really awesome. It's sad that even in Batman v Superman, we waited that long to see Bill Finger get his rights. And, that's just a small little portion of what happens to a lot of these people who, I'm telling you, it's hard work to draw comics. It's really tough. So to find out that some of these people aren't getting a lot of money sucks. So this is awesome. I tip my hat, I bow, whatever it is, to show the respect that I really feel for you guys for putting that up there, and anybody who donates to it as well. Like, that's awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure.
What about you, Nick James? What's been going on with your week, your month? Anything special that you've, even personal, not even related to the comic news, that you want to cover on the show today?
Yeah, I guess I could talk about, I'm still in school. I think I mentioned earlier, this is actually my final semester. I graduated high school in 2008. So this has been a long journey. And like last semester, as long as I really don't fuck anything up right now, like I'm really going to have that degree. So that's really awesome. And as I'm doing that, I'm finding experience through the radio station that I work at, 90.7 FM, WCLH. Sorry, shameless plug, had to. Kristen Rock would have killed me if I didn't. I was able to produce an audiobook, and this time I was the executive producer. I've done one last semester. I was a co-producer, but this time I was executive producer on an audiobook, and, sent over the files to everybody and said, all right, this is our side of recording and editing and producing this book for you guys is done. Take it to market, do what you do. But it feels really great. And now we even have another one because Etruscan Press is like right on Wilkes University property, or they work with the school, which is where WCLH is. So we have a steady stream of books just to keep making into audiobooks, or they do, because I'm out in May. Done.
Can you reveal the title of books that maybe people can hear that you helped produce, or maybe even the one that you just submitted?
They could definitely go ahead and check out Mr. Either Or. And I really do think that this audience would appreciate it. Now, first off, it's trippy. It's honestly just trippy as hell because it's a book written in verse. So it's like poetry, but it's telling a really long story. So it's kind of cool. But when you read it, the way it's formatted, it doesn't look like a normal book. It looks like a bunch of poems, and it's a little hard to read. And he uses giant words. But it took me a few times to read it. Excuse me, honestly. But once you do, it's a story. So it's called Mr. Either Or, and it's called that because it's a guy who is a college student / secret agent. So depending on who you're calling, it's Mr. Either Or. But this guy is faced with saving New York City from a reptilian alien invasion by like going to their planet and taking bleach bombs because they have like ammonia deficiency something. He looked up the science, and they have to take down a race of alien creatures and save New York, and it's nuts. It's pretty freaking awesome. And so what I got to do, I had the initiative to go ahead and be like, wouldn't it be awesome if, like, as they're running around New York, you can hear New York? So if you go ahead and get this book, it's on Audible, and you can listen to clips on it if you just want a little Susan, a little taste of it on YouTube, Mr. Either Or. But like, as he's like, oh, I headed to the subway, I laid tracks of the subway coming up. You can hear the bum bum and the doors opening and different things like that. And that was a lot of fun. And the other one, like I said, they just got sent to that today. So it won't be available. Probably by the end of the month on Audible or iTunes. This one was called To Banquet with the Ethiopians. And this was another really intense one. And this one was it didn't matter how many times I read it. I quite honestly don't know what it's about. It has something to do with the Iliad and the Odyssey, and from the little I've understood, it's a boy's way of coping with being sent to summer camp by kind of mirroring himself to the Battle of Troy. I don't know. It's so very smart. But if you're into stuff like that, you might like that one. But that one's just a straight read. It was just the author. His name is Philip Brady. The guy who wrote Mr. Either Or was Aaron Puchigian. Big shout out. Awesome guys. Yeah, but that's hopefully what I want to do. Like I said, in May, I'm done. I hope to go to Audible and be like, hey, can you guys hire me so I could do this forever? Because I love audio editing.
I was
love
just going to
doing
ask
stuff
you,
like
is this what you wanted to go into? And that's great, man. That's amazing that you have, especially that direct connection to Audible, to even if you don't get hired right away, it's like, hey, what can I do? What extra work do you have? And just get your foot in the door and just continue grinding at it. So congratulations, man. I'm really happy that you're finishing up. As someone who never finished college, it warms my heart to see someone make it to the end.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, it was a very long road. And at some point in there, I went to the Cubert school and horribly failed. Like that makes that connect now, but it was a long road, and I'm happy to be where I am now, and just thank you so much for that. That means a lot. What have you been up to, sir? I feel like I just talked so damn much.
No, man, it's all good. It's obviously actually, I should give the main update here with Kelli, being that she's not here. She got the 4 teeth at the time of this the recording. She got them done yesterday. So she got the 4 removed, and the way that she compared it, she said that it went better than she expected as far as the pain tolerance. But the thing that really kind of put it into perspective for me, not as someone who's going through wisdom teeth pain, but she said, I'm going through as much pain as I had before the surgery. So it's kind of like it continues, but she knows that it's over after, a week or so. So it's kind of like a one and done thing of, all right, just get this done, no more. And she's recovering, and she didn't have as much swelling as she expected, which is great. The surgeon, doctor, dentist, whatever they want to call him, the specialist, did a really good job in her particular procedure where she doesn't have that massive amount of swelling, and the bleeding wasn't too bad as far as the gauze. That was within 8 hours is what we had figured out. So she's recovering. She's great. She even offered like, hey, do you want me to just pop in and give them a slight update? I'm like, no, just heal, focus on it. Just do that and come back next week if you're up to it. So that's the main thing. That's the main thing with Kelli. You can see her tweet. She put up a picture, a little selfie, and you can see kind of the slight chipmunk face. So that's kind of what I've been up to. It's been a little bit heavier on Leo duty, and I had to miss New Comic Book Day at the comic shop. I had to take off that Wednesday. So it was a lot of, the guy that was taking over for that opening, I was like, hey, this guy needs this. Hey, this guy needs that. So it was a lot of kind of stress as far as, I hope this gets done. But, it's, you got to trust in your staff. And yeah, everything went smoothly with them and they did it well. So I kind of had a little bit of a pride moment there where, all right, so the shop's in good hands right now, and I can just focus on little Leo and then Kelli with her recovery.
That's awesome. Now, when you say you had some extra Leo duty, were you being figurative or literal?
Both.
Sorry, sir. Low hanging fruit. I got to take it where I see it.
It's funny because the changing of the diapers, I struggled with, but now it is very second nature. And being that I am a germaphobe, I feel like I clean them really well. So I kind of have that bit of mind of like, I'm taking extra care of my offspring type of thing. So yeah, it's parenthood, man. It's tough.
I am getting a crash course. I don't have my own kids, but for me to take this journey to go back to school and all that, like I moved in with my parents who were already living with my sister and her husband. They bought a mother-daughter house so that when they go to work, my parents are their nannies pretty much. And now I thank you very much for watching any Nick's Nerd News. But if you see the Cave of Nerddom, that's my basement. And on the other side of that wall is the basement where I sleep in. So I have I have 2 nephews, and one of them just turned 3 the other day, and the other one is 3 months.
Wow.
Dirty diapers are something I'm like, I got you. I know where you are, sir. And, mad respect to the both of you for doing it. Because I only do some. I'm Uncle Nick. I don't get a lot of diaper duty. So for you guys to be full-time diaper duties, again, tipping of the hat.
Here's something that put it in perspective for me when I was going through some of this, and it might help you, and maybe you've heard this before, but my uncle's boyfriend was telling me that back when he was taking care of his brothers, it was the cloth and pin type of washing and cleaning. So there was no, just take the diaper off and toss it. It was, no, you got to clean that dirty diaper and reuse it. Like it is cloth. So I'm like, Jesus, man, I'm glad I'm not in that timeline.
Oh, second, gnarly. Fuck that. Wouldn't have done that.
But he's like, you got to do it. And I'm like, no, you're right.
For sure. Yeah, no. because so many unfortunate, vivid images come to mind of like, that would be tough. You know, we've seen the ones that we thrown out. And like, imagine actually cleaning that. Like, no fucking thank you. Like, just imagining the procedure, it wouldn't be easy. No fucking way, Daniel. Would not do that.
On that note, let's head into
on the food note, yes.
Let's head into our thank yous for everyone that makes the show possible, our Patreon shout outs of the week. And this week we've got 5 shout outs. The first one goes out to Matt on Twitter at Mr. Forklift, who retweeted Batman Beyond's 20-year anniversary, along with an article campaigning the need for a live-action film from Warner Brothers.
I remember that day 20 years ago quite vividly, without really at that time, quite honestly, understanding that they made comics out of this material. Like, I didn't know, but I was like, what is this? Like, I had no idea. And it was old Batman. And like, I watched that first episode and just went like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I grew up on Batman, the animated series, and there was only one Batman. And then this came and it was revolutionary. I love Batman Beyond, and I would sign that petition if it were right here in front of me now.
That's the one thing too, is that Papa Kelly and I have discussed in the past. I know a Batman Beyond movie would do well. I think because it has Batman in the title, it will make money. Even Batman and Robin, it made, some money. Not enough to do Batman Triumphant, but it did okay. But with Batman Beyond on the big screen, the one thing that I would say is if I were a WB exec, I would probably pass on it because the audience that recognizes Batman Beyond is our generation, right? Because there isn't a kid's book, or Batman Beyond's not on TV right now where kids are growing up with Batman Beyond, and anyone older than us, someone that might have grown up with the Adam West cartoon, like, oh yeah, Batman Beyond was great, but it's not something that they were like, holy shit. They're like, yeah, we had The Dark Knight Returns. That was old Batman, and he was still Batman. So yeah, that's the only thing is I think it really only applies to our generation.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I took a second there just to think that through. It makes sense completely, and I couldn't agree more. But at the same time, I don't want to. It's a lot of money to throw down. And for a hot minute, I thought maybe that's what they were doing by where they're going with the Justice League now. And Ben Affleck pretty much saying, I could barely do this now, is like maybe they were headed that way, but I don't know if they know where they're headed or what they're going to do so far as that goes.
Well, we're going to discuss the original plans as done by Zack Snyder, but thanks to Joe Whedon and Warner Brothers, and then, of course, critics and bloggers and reviewers, that is no longer happening. We will hear that later. But the next shout out goes out to Jared on Twitter at Spoon Sandwich. You can also find them on youtube.com/Jared Monroe, who went live with an Assassin's Creed Odyssey stream and has ramped up his YouTube channel to have more of these on there. He's, of course, on the chat for Lazy Gaming Guys. He's been on the live streams when I occasionally play Black Ops 4. So, Jared, huge thanks for your Patreon support and for playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey and giving the Brokehead Core yet another stream, another avenue, another place that they can enjoy content from one of the Brokehead Core members.
Yeah, that might, like we were talking about, I love watching people play games. So I've been interested in the Assassin's Creed, don't know too much about it, but got to start somewhere, and I'm going to check that out.
Third shout out this week goes out to Scott on Twitter at Lazy Gaming Guys and at Pandanime. He wants me to finish Cowboy Bebop, Overwatching more, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I admitted on Twitter that, and he asks me every week, we meet up for food and drinks on Thursdays, and he's like, have you finished Cowboy Bebop yet? And I'm like, no, I started Are You Afraid of the Dark from VRV. And he's like, it is one of the greatest animes of all time. Why don't you just finish it? And I'm like, I know, I have like 4 episodes left, but I get distracted and suddenly my interest is elsewhere. And it's one of those things where the more someone tells me like, hey, you really finished it, the less I want to finish it. So
that's why I haven't watched any Breaking Bad, sir. People just keep hyping that up. Once people stop talking about it, maybe I'll watch it. But I'm tired of people telling me, oh, just make it through the first 2 seasons.
I hate that fucking argument because I got that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They were saying, well, if you just get up to the part where they get to Winter Soldier, then that's when it really ramps up. I'm like, what am I going to sit through fucking 16 episodes of mediocre television just to get to somewhere where it's like, oh, this is so good it'll make up for the other stuff. No, that's not gonna. It's impossible. It's a lot of time.
I could not agree more. No, there's too much good right now to sit through anything. So I have very low tolerance. You get a top maybe 3 episodes. 3 episodes is the farthest. If I'm not willing to watch that fourth, like, it's done. I'm sorry, I cannot do it.
Exactly, man. Go the comic book route. I give it 3 issues. If you don't have me by the 3rd issue, we are done.
Yeah, you're fucking up. That's too much time.
That's right. Next shout out goes out to Jose on Instagram at Decal Avenue, who celebrated a birthday this month. Happy birthday, Jose.
That's awesome. Happy birthday.
Final shout out this week goes out to Jordan on Twitter at Aswaylock. He's one of the hosts on the One Up Me podcast every week. It is all about gaming and video games. They actually put up 2 episodes a week, which is good on them because I could not do that. So, well, good on you, Jordan. And Ryan, he tweeted out, quote, I started watching Riverdale. I think I'm hooked. I'm 4 episodes in. Help me, end quote.
Riverdale's not one either that I have dived in on, but eventually will.
You need to watch Riverdale, man. It is, you're not going to hear this from a lot of people, but it is the best comic book based TV show on TV right now.
Well, I've done so for over an hour now, and I hate to blow you even more, but if Daniel tells me to go ahead and watch Riverdale, you bet your fucking ass I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot then, Nobody thus important has told me to try it, but again, with no sarcasm, I'm actually going to try it now because you told me to. I'll give it a shot. I'll let you know.
You won't regret it, man. It's all on Netflix, and then from there, if you do enjoy it as much as I did, the Sabrina TV show is very much in line with it. So I've been going slowly through those episodes. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, another Netflix, although this one's a Netflix original, or they paid to have the rights to stream it on their service. So that's another one. If you guys like Riverdale, definitely check out Sabrina. But thank you so much for your Patreon support this month and every month to Matt, Jared, Scott, Jose, and Jordan this week. If you too would like your Patreon shout out every single month, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimmbroke. You can find the link in today's description, and you too, for $1 a month, equals out to 25 cents an episode. You can get your shout out and contribute to the show, much like they did today with Nick and I commenting on my stalking of your Twitter, of your Facebook, to give you more content every single week. Massive thank you as well to Jose at decalavenue.com for the help at the $5 reward tier. And if you're saying, I don't have $1 to spare, Daniel, I am as broke as the reasons I'm broke, head on over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, whatever you may call it, and you can leave us a review. It takes less than 2 minutes, and it helps other Brokehead Core members find the show.
Yeah, it really does. I remember that was like one of the first things I did, where we were talking. And if you're sitting there and you're listening and you're enjoying this, you're probably looking at your phone. You're probably doing something anyway. Like, go ahead and do that. Not only that, it's just nice. They give you so much. You give me so much, at least. Like, I felt that's the least I could do. And it is. That's nice that you guys are always keep the show free and stuff.
Man, thank you again for your Patreon support. I know you did not get a shout out this week, but I have you on now, right? So I can give you your shout out. Thank you so much. You're going to get another one by the end of the month too. So, but it's just kind of neat that I can tell you thank you as well for your Patreon support, Nick James. I appreciate it. And Kelli appreciates it as well.
Yeah. Again, it's not even in the realm of what I could say to say thank you for having me on. It's a dream. It really is. I thank you guys. You're in my ears every single week. I was really afraid of coming off a little creepy or a little crazy because I know you guys very well. I see you guys every week, if you will. We meet up every week, but you don't have my end. So I was afraid of being creepy, but this has been so much fun. I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Of course, man. And let's head into the final portion of today's episode. I'm going to go ahead and play the jingle for the comic book review show because we're going to go review over a lot of this code here, but it is the Justice League Zack Snyder code as seen on his official Vero and on his Twitter account.
So the Batman v Superman director Zack Snyder released a t-shirt design with the purpose of raising money for American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. The front of the tee shows the Tree of Life design, and the back of the states, all the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you. It's heavy. It's a heavy thing. And, when we heard about why your buddy had to come in and finish up the Justice League because he and his wife had to go home, and I'm happy you smiled there, because he and his wife had to go home and deal with the loss of their child. Like, it was sad. It was really horrible because, I obviously don't know anything about him, but I've enjoyed his work for so long that, again, like I just stated with you guys, I feel like I knew him a little bit, and to know that he was hurt it's rough, and nobody should have to bury a kid. And
no, of course not.
So this is great that hopefully with so much tragedy, hopefully something, because all the profits are going to go there. Hopefully something can come from it, this horrible thing.
Yeah, I thought for a second that you were being cheeky by saying your buddy, because you know how I feel about Joe Whedon. I'm like, he's not my friend.
No. I knew. That's why I tried to play it off like, oh, your friend. I see you guys chatting all the time.
Now, this is cool, though. Like, it's a nice way to give so much support to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and connects very deeply to Zack's life. And being now that I am a parent, a lot of parents say the same thing. It's like, it's very tough to just continue, right? Even trying to imagine something like that. So for Zack to turn all of this into a positive and not only continue his work, but, do this campaign for suicide prevention for a lot of people, which is a huge problem right now. I think suicide rates are higher than they have been in the last, I think they said 30 years. So it is an issue. And this is something that will hopefully help. If this saves one life, then of course it's worth it. If this just gets someone thinking and living that extra day, then it's of course worth it. So good on everyone that helped support this campaign. But on top of it being just something that connects to Zack personally, he went ahead and gave the DC Belugas, the DCEU fans, something extra by giving us what appears to be some kind of roadmap to what he initially intended to be his 5-film plan for the DC universe. And a lot of this, we got to cite our work here from the Film Exiles WordPress, which is a weekly podcast as well. And since then, there have been a lot of Vero accounts that have broken this down differently, but this is the one that I found the most fascinating, and very, very few things here have been actually confirmed by Zack, but it's all, I felt like this was the more accurate theory to all of this. And if you have not seen it, it is the YouTube thumbnail to today's episode. But if you do type in Zack Snyder, Justice League Code, Suicide Prevention, you will see the full design for the shirt. But the first part of it is the Tree of Life seems to descend in power and breakdown. At the very top, you have Superman, the beginning, which is Man of Steel, my favorite in the DCEU universe. It leads down to then the two next powerful beings in the Justice League, which is Aquaman and Wonder Woman, then to Flash and Cyborg, and finally to Batman and Lois Lane at the end of this particular Tree of Life.
And then from there, like when that's going down all around the end, they have inside two pillars that they're decorated in wheat and concrete, and it seems to represent the duality of Metropolis and Smallville, but it could also represent, Superman and Batman, or the sun and the moon, different kind of things like that. The difference that they share, even from farm and city life. If you look at them, they're night and day, yin and yang in so many ways, and it's shown right there.
One of the symbols that a lot of people have focused on especially is the star with an eye in the star, which reads next to it on the line connecting to that particular branch of AC-23, which is believed to represent Lucifer and Lex Luthor, as Lex's first appearance is Action Comics number 23. So you kind of have the catalyst to the Justice League, to the death of Superman, of course, and then to the fight between Batman and the Man of Steel.
And then right in that, you have a really awesome sword there, but it's got the Omega symbol there, which we've seen, a lot for who else but Doomsday.
Darkseid.
And that leads to, geez, Lou, sorry about that. Darkseid.
No, I called him Doomsday last week. That's the only reason I remembered, because I'm like, damn it, I was listening to last week's episode. I'm like, I called him Doomsday.
It's just so much sometimes, guys, and they're all so alliterative. But that ends up leading to the death of Batman, which is pretty awesome, or the death of Bruce Wayne. Not awesome in that sense, like it's awesome, but just again, you owe to yourself to go ahead and look up this design, because I feel like we're doing a really great job of talking it through. But if you haven't looked it up, it's beautiful. It's really great.
Yeah, not even as like all right, this is the breakdown, but just as a design, it looks great on a poster, on a t-shirt, and I hope they end up doing more with this. The blood from the casket of Bruce Wayne, it was actually confirmed by Zack on Vero that yes, this is the death of Bruce Wayne, the death of Batman. It is his sacrifice in Justice League 2, again confirmed by Zack, to save Lois Lane and Superman's unborn child at that time.
Which is nuts, yeah, because then at the very bottom there, Lois is represented by a triangle, which is usually traditional symbol of fertility in women. So it was also confirmed later by Zack, before WB, eventually tore down everything, because he would build it up, he'd make his own thing, and eventually they'd have to reboot. But before that happened, Clark and Lois would cap everything by naming their child Bruce. And like, I'm not crying, you're crying. Like, damn.
Bruce Kent.
Yeah.
Amazing.
What do you think the middle name would be? Bruce? Alfred?
I'd have to go with Jonathan, after his dad.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Maybe that'd be... Because he already, in the comics, it's Jonathan Kent Jr., but if they're going with Bruce, which he's already changed a lot of the continuity from the comics, but if they're going to name it Bruce, then yeah, it'd be kind of nice to name him Bruce Jonathan Kent.
Nice. That's awesome.
The other tie is here's where it ties into, like, hold on, we got this Flash scene in Batman v Superman where he seems to be going back in time to warn Bruce about something. There's a very important line in that delivery in which he says, "Too soon? I'm too soon." And then he changes what he says and says, Lois Lane is the key. And then we get to the Bruce kind of waking up again from that particular flashback or that time travel. And this is where it ties in to Flash's part of this design, in which you have like the scythe and then an hourglass on the left side of the design, which seems to imply that in his timeline, which is the nightmare sequence that we saw in BVS, Superman wins, or Superman continues to kind of reign over Earth in favor of Darkseid. And his line of, "She was my world, you took her away from me," implies that in this timeline that Flash came from, Lois Lane and her unborn child with Superman ended up dying. So by Flash going back in BVS and changing things, we get the result of his planned Justice League 2, which would have had Bruce sacrificing himself, obviously, I'm guessing at the hands of Darkseid, to save Lois and Jonathan Kent, which is then maybe, and this is all speculation, but maybe then Superman learns that she was pregnant with the child, or maybe because of the sacrifice that snaps him out of whatever influence Darkseid had over him, thanks to the mother boxes, which is another thing that they cut from Justice League, in which Superman would have had a part of the mother boxes in him. Hence, Darkseid would have control over the Man of Steel because they used the mother boxes to resurrect Superman.
And that's not it. What else they have on this? And like when I read this, mind blown. Like it just makes so much sense. Even a little bit with what we ended up getting in Justice League. We saw the different ways the mother box worked, but it was theorized to tie into the Flash's time travel because it became the cosmic treadmill.
Yes.
Genius. It's such a dumb fucking thing in comics that like when you have to explain to somebody like, how does the Flash time travel? Well, he gets on a treadmill. They're like, come on, you're fucking with me. And you're like, no, it's true. It's a treadmill. And like they do it in the show. But if you say a piece of alien tech was like, all right, let me think about how to make a fast man time travel. Well, here, I'll turn into this. This is something you'll understand and be able to use. Genius. And now we won't see it.
And now we want, hashtag until it wasn't. That's what. It's so.
Oh my God. That just, as a fan and as somebody like you can hear, I'm just so fucking fired up. And that would have been perfect. And then no longer must you held your head in shame of like cosmic treadmill. Yes, it's boy runs fast on a treadmill time travel. So you're like, no, it's alien machinery that helps them. Like that would have been great.
And that's one of the things that some of the bloggers have ran with, like, he killed Superman and he planned on killing Batman. And Zack fired back with, fuck yes. Like, this was his plan. And a lot of people had that, you heard that a lot with BVS and Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, and it's like, what direction are they going in? What are they doing? And this whole time, Zack had this plan that we would have seen unfold even further with his original cut of Justice League. I don't know if you've seen the images of the time-traveling Flash and then the Nightmare Cyborg, but they went up also on Twitter, and they are what we saw in BVS of Flash, where he had that kind of helmet that he put on, and then you see it kind of lift up when he's talking to Bruce. That's what we would have seen in Justice League in the original cut of Snyder's, and now this is all confirmed by this particular timeline. Let me ask you something, Nick. Do you think that because he has essentially revealed his planned story, that we are definitely 100% not going to see his return to fulfill this?
Correct. Yeah, no, unfortunately, I would have to say that he's going to either step away or they told him to leave. And either one, I really wouldn't blame him for doing so. You know, obviously, if they told him to leave, I don't blame him for that. But if he just decided, like, I can't take this anymore, you know, I have a vision, you hired me, like, it must be so fucking hard as an artist, because the director is an artist as well, to be like, wow, you hired me because you like what I do and you want to see me do what I do. And then you sign the check and everything's going to be great. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, do what you do through my fucking eyes. Do what you do as my hands are working you, little puppet boy. So to want to say, no, I'm not going to do that again, I don't blame him for if it is a personal decision. Like, I'm sad. I would have loved to see that, especially as we're sitting here hashing out the shirt and what it could have meant and the story that could have been. Like, it seems like the dude wanted to do something, and cold feet and money grubbing and licensing and
Rotten Tomatoes.
Fucking Rotten Tomatoes.
Biggest culprit.
But all that nonsense, yeah. I mean, you can't put that many fucking spoons in. You know, there's going to be nothing left for the people who want it. For us, there's nothing sometimes. So it sucks. It sucks. At the very least, I hope maybe he'll go a route of just giving us more details so we can get a somewhat tied together fan fiction story. You know, so we can get the full thing of what we were supposed to see. So again, you know, I've said this over and over. I just want to know what the fucking story was. Like, we have hints and we have things, but just tell me what your vision was so I can know, because I just want to know, because it was probably fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's all a damn shame. And I know some people have been saying, like, well, maybe later on we can get like a comic adaptation of his original script. And it's like, yeah, I can see that happening many years, but that'll just reignite the flames of like, God damn it, we could have seen that on the big fucking screen, and now we're not. And with the Snyder Cut, if that happens, I think the Snyder Cut, while yes, it will be a lot of shit, man, that's what could have been. It's also kind of like, it would satisfy and would tie up a loose end with our narrative and our relationship with Zack as fans of, okay, we saw what your original vision was, and at least here's what it is. And we understand that you're not involved in moving forward, but at least we got to kind of appreciate and understand where you were going with this.
Nolan got it. Give Zack his fucking due. You know, we have the Nolan verse for a reason. We consider that a beginning, a middle, and an end. Not just because it's 3 parts, but because he said, I had a story to tell, I told it, and now I'm done. Like, he deserved the same fucking chance.
And that's what kills me. And that's what I say constantly, almost every single week, is the DCEU, his movies, as negatively received as they might have been, they were financially successful. They did really well at the box office. But where Warner Brothers kind of misread all of this is they went, if we had positive ratings and we had positive reviews, this movie would have made even more. Not taking into the fact that if you change what you have now, it could possibly be even worse in box office returns, which is what we got with Justice League, where it is the most changed, most bastardized version of all of these films, and it ended up making less money than all of the ones that you let your artists loose on.
And I try, man. You don't know how sad it makes me. I mean, I'm both happy and sad, because there could have been no Justice League movie, which you can argue as much as you want anybody, but I am happy to at least have this rather than nothing.
Sure.
But I do try to watch it continuously, and I can't like a lot of it. I'm just like, well, all right. You know, there are some scenes, of course. There's that scene where the Flash takes off and Superman's eye moves and he watches them. Like, I get that giddy feeling of like, oh my God, they're doing it. That's a Snyder scene. Like, this would have been, oh my God, they're doing it. And then it goes to other things, and, you know, you kind of get off the ride, if you will. But what could have been, and it makes me think a lot too. I just watched something about where do you think we'd be if George Miller got his take at it?
Yeah, that's another big one where I don't know if we would have gotten Mad Max's sequel, but yeah, that's another thing that people really wanted to see, is because they had cast and everything, but it never moved past that.
They were in Australia when the strike was done. They were together. They were costume tested. They were like, there's pictures of at least that Wonder Woman and stuff like that. They were so far, and that fucking strike just had to hit right then. And maybe I'm just what do they call Monday morning quarterbacks, where I'm like, oh, that would have been the one. That would have been the one that did everything. But I really do feel like George Miller would have given us something to get just a little bit more of a boost off than what we got with Justice League.
Yeah, at the same time, though, I'm glad that we even got this particular design, because Zack he could have easily released even just a quote by itself, the back of the t-shirt, and Snyder fans would have supported him, including myself. But because it is such a deep and rooted thing with this particular director and his life, but it's kind of nice that we got this bonus of every now and again, hey, here's a picture of Darkseid from Wonder Woman's scene. And I think we're going to be seeing more of that this year of, we're probably not going to get a Snyder cut if he keeps continuing with these stills and these shots. So why not just give it to the fans? What kind of clause ended or didn't end? It doesn't matter. It seems like he's still releasing bits of his film that we never saw, even in the trailers. Yeah,
I do believe eventually we will get it. But
really? You think we're going to get the Snyder cut?
Eventually. If we don't get the Snyder cut, what will eventually happen is, have you seen John Snep's The Death of Superman Happened, or The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened?
I have, yeah. It's very good.
We'll get it eventually someday. Something like that will happen, where if it's not the exact Snyder cut, we'll get enough. Somebody will piece together these pieces enough to create a story to kind of give us a dimension. But then I firmly believe eventually Warner Brothers will be like, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Once they have success with a new franchise, once they have their cake, they'll want to eat it too and be like, all right, fine. We'll sell them this new one and be like, oh, now in limited edition, super fucking black and white, get the Snyder cut. And then they'll make us pay double. Like, you know what I mean? And they'll think they're being cheeky about it.
Well, and we'd be happy to pay, on top of that.
Hell yeah. I'd pre-order that right goddamn now if I could.
That's the crazy thing, is a lot of the early screenings of Justice League did have, like, even though it was changed and, like, it was essentially Justice League, but there were extra scenes in there where we did see Darkseid, and a lot of the screeners saw that, yeah, there was a slide that said, unfinished effects, Darkseid, and so on. And then, of course, the Green Lantern original post-credit scene to Justice League, which would have been incredible, but it feels like they have the bits there, the pieces, and a little bit of extra budget to finish off the special effects and to build that. We'll get you the Snyder cut, and I think would get them enough in Blu-ray, DVD sales, and streaming, all of that, to more than make up for the costs of what is essentially releasing the scenes that were filmed and then polishing them up and building them in post.
Because why not? You filmed them. Like, yeah, you filmed them.
Exactly.
Like,
money was already used.
Make money. Exactly. Yes. Oh, same page. Yeah, it was already used. It seems like a dumb business mistake just to not. That's why I think they're just being really crafty and just sit on it. If it goes into the vault and they do it for their 10 year, if they make us wait 10 years, it's not going to make me lose interest. It's going to make me absolutely just tearing at the edge for it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key right there, what you said, in 10 years, because the one other bit of information, and to sort of kind of put a bow tie on all of this, is the fact that we are getting a new Gods film within the next 5 years. So a lot of DC fans have been kind of upset at this, because it's like, well, this is probably different than what was planned for his original run, where it's actually another thing that Zack did confirm, in which Batman does kill Darkseid in his sacrifice for everything else. So if that had happened, I don't think we would have gotten the new Gods. And I think that is a product of this particular change, in which they fired all of these people, including Zack, and brought in this new crew to kind of move forward with just separate independent films. So, but still, it's kind of like if this happens in 10 years, it won't affect these particular plans. If they release the Snyder cut next year or even this year, that might have some people kind of scratching the heads of like, wait, is that what Darkseid's also going to look like in the New Gods? Or hold on a second, I thought we were getting this film later, so that kind of contradicts this. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be later on in the future.
Yeah, it'll be, hey, remember how bad you wanted this? I bet you still do. And exactly what you said, it'll be so quote unquote old by then that it can't mess up any future plans that they may have now. It won't cross continuities. They'll just be like, now you can finally own what could have been, and there you go. Shut up about it. Give me your money.
Let us know, Brokehead Core, what your theories might be if you interpret this design differently than the Film Exiles and ourselves on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke. Nick James, where can the Brokehead Core tweet you in case they want to run their theory past you on this particular code, or even talk to you now that they've really personally met you on the podcast?
If anybody wasn't completely just turned off by my horrible swearing, they could find me on Twitter at Jersey Whisperer, or now for the Knicks Nerd News. It doesn't come out as often as I'd like, but I got to wait for their equipment and different things like that. So it's when they need me to, but I have a Twitter set up for that at Knicks Nerd News 1 as well. And either one be appreciated. I like I said, I've just gotten really back into Twitter and using it as a full-on communication thing. So I'd love to hear all theories. I love talking about nerd stuff all the time. Thanks so much for having me, man.
That's right. You will find links to at Jersey Whisperer, at Knicks Nerd News 1 on today's episode on the description, whether you're listening to this on your favorite podcatcher or on YouTube. Anything else that you want to plug in before we sign off today?
Absolutely not. No, just again, I cannot say thank you enough. Once we get off here, I'm sure I'll tweet it. I'll say it a million times once the episode posts, and I'll say it every single day when I wake up. Thank you so much, guys.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Without you guesting on the podcast, there might not have been a show this week as Papa Kelli goes through her recovery. So I really appreciate you standing in and helping us out with this week's episode.
Again, it was my absolute pleasure. Feel better, Kelli. Like you said, it's gone very quick. I do follow her on Twitter. Everybody else should too. She's been talking about getting her Twitter followers up. Let's do that, guys. Come on. But like you said, she looks great already. So I'm sure she'll be feeling better anytime now. Can't wait to hear her on the next episode as well.
So thank you so much as well, Brokehead Core members, for tuning in to today's episode. I am Darth V. Daniel.
I have been Nick James.
And Brokehead Core, all will be well.